Welcome to Underground Storage Tank Compliance. This is piping 201. The pipes are flowing. Oh, that's about as well as I can sing. So glad you guys don't come here for the singing. That would be crazy. So what we talked about in 101 was the two types of piping systems, the pressurized and the suction system. And then when you're looking at a pressurized system, you're looking down into the sump, you can actually see the piping down there. And we'll talk about what kind of piping you see when you look in the sump in one of the other slides. Pressurized system, this is how you know it's a pressurized system. Usually you have a big STP sump, and then you can see the layout of the piping whenever they're installing the system on the ground. And these are fiberglass pipes in this system. So piping in an underground storage tank system is very similar to the underground storage tanks. There's a primary pipe. In a single wall pipe, that's all you have is primary piping. That's it. So if there's a release, it goes straight to the environment. In double wall pipes, you have a primary pipe and then you have a secondary pipe. So the pipe is considered to be secondarily contained. And in between the primary and secondary pipe, you have interstitial space, just like you do in a tank, but the difference is in how these are monitored. Before 2015, any pipe could be could be single walled. So you could have any system with just single wall tanks. They could also be double walled. They could be more than double walled. They could be in piping runs, piping trenches. They could be in concrete culverts. They could, buried in concrete culverts. There's all sorts of things that they could do with piping before 2015. Since 2015, pipes have to be double walled. They have to be non-corrodable, so that means that if they are in touch with soil or water, they won't rust. The ends of the pipe have to be open to the containment area, so they can be monitored continuously. The interstice, or the space between the two walls, has to be allowed to freely drain into the sumps. You have to have sensors at the lowest point of your containment sumps so that whenever any liquid enters the sumps, it'll set off that sensor immediately. And then your containment sumps have to be monitored by sensors at all times. And those sensors have to be hooked up to some type of device to show if they go into alarm or not. Usually it's an automatic tank gauge. The kinds of piping you have out there, we'll start off with fiberglass pipe. A fiberglass pipe is usually this brownish color, sometimes a brownish red. And this is what a double wall fiberglass pipe looks like. You have the primary pipe on the inside here, and then you have your secondary pipe on the outside, and this little bitty space between these two pipes is your interstice. When they're connecting the two pipes at a corner or in different areas, they use a clamshell. This is what a clamshell looks like, and it has to extend out over these double wall pipe areas, the interstice area, to contain the interstitial space so that it can move freely throughout the system. So you need this to go over these areas, and the interstice has to be allowed to run smoothly from one point to the other. So you don't want to put glue over the interstice. You don't want to leave the interstice open to the sump area to the soil or the environment, because if you do, it can drain into the environment and it won't drain back to the sump and set off the alarms. So that's just a couple of tidbits about when you install fiberglass pipe. These are some different versions of flex piping. There are a lot of different types of flex piping out there. We have had histories of some manufacturers of flex piping failing, and what will happen is this outer coat will move, either it'll expand and move down the piping and then cause the whole piping run to break. And if it breaks, of course, it's not going to work anymore. But what you typically have on these pipes is a primary inner pipe, a secondary outer pipe, and then a space between the two pipes where any kind of liquids can move back and forth through the system. There are other pipes out there that are basically flex pipe, but they use different materials on the primary piping. This particular brand uses stainless steel for their primary piping and a polyethylene for their secondary. This one uses HDPE pipe, high density pipe with electrofusion fittings. The fittings are green in color and the piping is usually black. I haven't seen any of this type of pipe in use, but I've read literature showing that it is out there. One part of the flex piping that you'll see that often gets confused is there's what we call a chase pipe or a rock guard, and it's this corrugated pipe that runs the length of the piping run, but it is not designed to contain petroleum, so it is not a secondary or even a tertiary containment for these piping. It is designed basically so that if you an installer or a contractor can come out, he can grab the end of this double wall pipe out of the chase pipe and pull it all the way out, and then pull a new pipe into that chase pipe and install it without ever breaking concrete. These are not used in fiberglass piping, but you'll see them all over whenever they're installing new runs of flex pipe. Looking at the piping during the installation, you can see the flex piping on the right has really slight curves to it. They don't do 90-degree angles. This is because they use one run of pipe for each grade of fuel that they're running. So this one pipe right here will go all the way back to the tank, and it'll be just one solid run of piping. So they can't really put 90 degrees in this because of course it'll kink it. Over here on the left you have your fiberglass pipe, and the fiberglass pipe, they have several clamshells because they have 90-degree connections in it. They have pipes that are connected together, so they have a clamshell there, and those keep the interstice consistent throughout the run of piping. In the links for this video, I'm going to put the link to a piping guide that is put out by the National Work Group on Leak Detection Evaluations. So you can go there. It shows you pictures of most major pipes that are used in our gas stations in the US. So you can see those. You can get a feel for what different piping options are out there. South Carolina has a really good video, good presentation on failures that have occurred with piping. I'll also link to that in the description of this video. In our next video for the underground storage tank compliance, we're going to talk about piping release detection. So that'll be piping 301. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or you have suggestions for other videos, please don't hesitate to let me know. You can reach me through my email on my profile. Thank you. Bye.